Hello there, welcome along to the NUFC 360 match preview for Sunday afternoon's game away to Wolverhampton Wanderers. My name is Stuart Montgomery and tonight I'm joined by Max, Mark and Alan. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Evening.
Hope you're all doing well. Tonight we're going to be looking ahead to the match on Sunday at 1 p.m, as well as talking about a certain 6'3" international striker to boot. So let's start with there. We're going to come to one member of the preview for a very obvious reason. Max, how are you?
Oh, I'm great, Stuart. I'm so happy right now to see one of my countrymen, the biggest talent we have right now, arguably, to sign for my club is something special, really.
Is it?
No, go on.
I was going to say, is this, because I've heard some media, like Swedish media, through different NUFC channels, is this getting much traction in Sweden? Is there a lot of talk about Newcastle United? Is it hitting the news, or is it just designated just the sports pages?
No, this is huge. Honestly, the day it broke, all the outlets were reporting on it. For us, is because we're a small country, we don't get so much big stars in football. And since Zlatan, we have Ibrahimovic, we haven't had like a star player. And he's that player for us right now. So when the rumors started coming out, all the outlets started to print about it and putting out their opinions, how they felt about it. And so it's a really big deal here right now.
Awesome. I mean, it's just incredible. Mark and Alan, we're going to get your thoughts on, help me here, Max, Isak?
Yeah, it's. I tried to explain it on my Twitter before. It's for you guys. It's more easier to maybe if you remove the I with an E, it's more accurate because we say it Alexander Isak, and if you think Isak, it's maybe easier for you guys. So it's not Isaac. That's the more
it will take a while to train my brain to not do that. But Mark and Alan, we will come to you about your opinions about Alexander Isak. But tonight we're going to have a look ahead to the game. So I'll start with you, Mark. In terms of Wolves, if we're thinking about last year, how we got on with them in comparison to this year, are you more or less confident going into Sunday's game?
More by 1,000 times. Thinking back to last season,
nice.
Well, I mean, specifically the away tie, thinking back to that last season, I don't know about you guys. You probably will agree, I would think. But for me, that was probably the low point of...
Yeah.
Not just last season, not just the Ashley era. My entire life as a Newcastle fan, I think that was probably the low point of it in some ways. Even tops getting relegated because... you went through the relegation. It was awful, but yet, with hindsight, you come straight back up. It's not the worst thing in the world in some ways, because we bounced straight back. But everything just felt, hopeless after that loss at Wolves. It was such an abject performance. We knew what was going to happen before you even watched the game. I could have predicted everything. I could have predicted the substitutions. Every Newcastle fan could have, and it all played out. And it was just so depressing. And you just thought, when is this going to end? And that was the other overriding emotion, not just hopelessness, just this idea that it's never going to get better. And there's literally no point in supporting this club. It's just existing for the sake of it. So contrast that with where we're at now, having just signed an international striker for 58 million quid. I'm feeling a lot better about it, that's for sure. And then the home tie last year, we got a decent result there as well. So we've already proven we can win a game against these lads. They haven't. They've had a decent summer. It's been okay. It's not been as good as ours. So I'm hoping for big things. One thing I will say about Wolves is, and I don't know if this is a controversial opinion, I think they might be the most boring team in the league. I would hate to support them personally. I just think they're dull as dishwater. And
certainly, I completely agree. Well, I completely see your point there. Certainly going on this season alone, They've not, they've hardly banged the goals in. They had in the opening day just the one goal against Leeds to beat them 2-1, and goals were win at some point. Home draw, scored no goals against Fulham, and then no goals again against Tottenham. So we've only scored one goal in 3 games, and actually they sort of squeaked through a Preston North End side in the cup during the week there and scored 2 goals. So they're certainly not high scoring. Yeah. I completely agree. No wins so far this season, which is obviously it's going to affect us in a way on the mind a wee bit. So I think, I agree with you. Until you said that, I completely forgot that it was away Wolves was the last game before the takeover. It just completely, that is a different life now. It's a different, timeline completely, that era of supporting Newcastle. So that's really, really interesting, actually. Alan, if we'll come to you. So thinking about, obviously, and Mark has already alluded to it, where we are now and the signs we have in our squad, and even the changes, the vast change we've had this year. How do you see, I suppose, how we approach the game? I don't want to compare it to the last away game because I don't think that's fair, because it will be entirely different, even from this being a new season compared to last year from when Howe took over. How do you see Eddie Howe approaching this game?
I think he's going to approach it the way he's already talked about approaching most games this season, which is this, this term of on the front foot, and against one of the greatest teams in the world at home. Last Sunday, we saw him standing virtually on the halfway line with his arm out saying, stay there, do not fall back. And so, again, I know we don't want to go back to kind of the bad old days of the Wolves game, but it was the low point, and it was that Bruce comment of keeping it ticking over and attritional football. And the contrast is just, as I say, we're going to go there and we're going to try and win the game. And I think, coming back to what Mark was saying as well, it's like the two, don't want to kind of curse it, but it does feel like the two teams have crossed somewhere. Wolves came up a few years ago, ambition, signing good young players. They've got the connection with the agents and they seem to have a plan. We were just playing attritional, let's survive football. And now Wolves, 1 goal in 3 games. Jimenez doesn't even get in the side these days. And you kind of go, crikey, we're the ones going that way. So I would expect nothing more than us really setting up to go for it. My only hesitation is the fact that we won't have a Callum Wilson, but we might have an Isak, an Alexander Isak. So even that's pretty good.
A very good point. Max, is there anyone in the Wolves squad that worries you a bit, or would you be concerned about going into Sunday?
They have some good technical forwards in Pedro Neto, and they signed Gonzalo Guedes, who seemed quite quick and good against Tottenham for moments. And I think they have Podence also really small, technical, pacey front three. The thing that's positive in that fact is that they don't have an out-and-out goal scorer who I think has scored so many goals other than Jimenez. I know he's back now, but it seems a bit off it. I know he scored in the cup, I think, but still to only have those, they seem quite capable as well. They're small and tricky, and that could be a problem. We have quite big center backs. It can either be a positive thing because we bully them off the ball, or they, nutmeg us to the goal and score some worldies. But I think overall they got some good attackers. Mostly those 3 guys. We will see how it goes.
Neto, he's been heavily linked with Arsenal. Is he definitely going to play? I don't know if you know that, or does anyone know that? Is he going to play the game? Is he going to make the squad? Because there were certainly very recent rumours that he may be left out because of that interest, that Wolves may even have accepted a bid. Not sure if anyone knows about that. Mark, what do you think?
I don't know. I would argue in a way it almost doesn't make a difference, in the sense that, they seem to have an awful lot of these flary wing forwards, if you will, and they're all kind of a muchness. You can basically trade them in and out, and they're about the same player as what they amount to. And for some reason, they've never focused on signing a striker for when Jimenez is either injured or out of form, which obviously he's kind of in that phase at the moment. So Whether Neto plays or not, I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be too worried whether he does or he doesn't. I think a lot of their wing forwards, like I say, are somewhat interchangeable. And for me, I think we should have enough to really, hopefully, press them high up the pitch, which is what Howe will want to do. Playing Wood, you would imagine, might make that a little more difficult than having Wilson up top. But still, you would like to think we could do it. So yeah,
I mean, let's stick with that idea, but we'll move on to our own lineups and predictions and how we think we'll set out our stall. I mean, Alan, Black Mamba has made 2 comments there regarding the lineup in the comments. He said, Wilson obviously is out, and we're hoping 2 weeks is what it seemed to have said. So that would be great, actually. It's not that bad at all. He wants to know, will we see Wood leading the line, or obviously will we see Alexander Isak make his debut either at some point or starting? How do you think that Howe is going to line up? What changes are you going to see from the Man City game?
Yeah, I'd be surprised if Howe started with Isak, because I think I think he said that in the press conference this morning, he wanted him to have 2 full days training with the squad. But even then, we saw in January, he gave Bruno weeks. Now, I'm not expecting him to give Isak weeks. I think we'll probably see Isak against Liverpool and against Palace. But I think it's just too soon. If he gets the international clearance, as we've seen on the comments, you'd like him on the bench if needed. And I don't mind the idea. I mean, I'm a big defender of Chris Wood. He gets a hard, he gets a tough, he's not Callum Wilson, he's not Alexander Isak, but he came and he did a job when we needed him last season, and a cracking header in the week in the League Cup that showed what he can do. And it's a confidence game as a striker. So I almost like Wood to start, because I think he's got the physical play. I think we have to change the way we play around Chris Wood. He's not Callum Wilson, so I would expect maybe, we'll come on to Sam Maximan. Does he have to change the way he does things? Does Almiron? The only other change I thought of was Willock, because, I know the Man City game was great, but I don't know. I just think Longstaff deserves a shot. I don't think Willock has set the world alight. I might be wrong in that. And that's been harsh, but we're setting very high standards for ourselves now. So I wouldn't mind seeing Longstaff come in.
He's also probably exhausted. He played again in Tuesday as well, and against Man City, Willock. I know so did Trippier. But yeah, I can definitely see Willock not playing for that very reason. He's played 2 good games in quite close succession. It's an interesting thought on Wood there about him playing. And yeah, that's a very good point. When we went through that very good run we had post-January, that was a big part of that was Chris Wood playing up top. Now, I suppose the argument could be made that was when John Joe Shelby was in the starting lineup, and he has his detractors as well, but the ability to play those long balls, which he seems to be just really the most effective at, definitely I think helped Wood's game, taking the ball down and bringing it, passing it to everyone and just being part of the game. It doesn't happen quite as much with either Willock or Longstaff in there. So yeah, look, you're right. Wood has done it before, not necessarily with the goals, but with the hold-up play and things like that. The only, I suppose, counter to the argument that Howe wouldn't throw him in, because I agree, Bruno didn't get thrown in, and he likes to build players into the team and get them around, is he chucked Dan Burn and Trippier in straight away. And I think the reason he did that was because he needed to. And he had recognised, I need to replace the right back, I need to replace the centre back at that stage. You could make the argument, you could say, well, I need to replace the striker, but I'm not saying he does. It's an interesting one. Max, I'll come back to you then. I suppose the simple question would be, who do you think we'll see up top? Do you think it will be Isak at the start? Let's assume, by the way, Isak's going to get clearance, because I just hope he does. Do you think we'll see him at all? And if so, when do you think we'll see him in the match? Will it be a halftime change? Will it be right at the start, or maybe bring him on for a wee cameo?
Yeah, it depends on how the games go. I would agree with Alan to start with Wood. I think he deserves a start, and I think with Isak not having an experience of playing in the Premier League, it would be really harsh on him to just throw him in to start after not maybe even 2 days of training. So, in my opinion, it would be best to start Wood, maybe sub Isak on, depending on how the game goes, maybe around the 7th minute, give him 20 minutes playing time, get a bit used to it. But that's also depending on how the game's going. If we're losing 2-0, subbing on 50th minute, maybe earlier, just to see if that changed the game. But I don't see that game going that way. So for me, it's better to give him a steady platform to then build from and start, rather than just throw him in the deep end just because we need him right here, right now. But his time will come. He will probably start many games for us, so we don't need to like throw him in. So I would say stick to Wood and maybe subbing on in the 70th minute, somewhere about.
Okay, 70th minute, about 20 minutes to go. Mark, a comment from Stu there, sort of saying that he feels that Isak's caliber of player wouldn't want to just sit on the bench. I'm not saying at any point, but potentially sacrifice important league points and give that up. What are you thinking? Where would you stand on the debate with Isak or Wood? Do you think that is a factor about his own personal aspirations, or do you think Eddie will just do what's right for the team and go that way?
Yeah. I think the second part of your statement there hits the nail on the head. Eddie's got a proven track record on this, and you've already touched on it. Really, he beds players in slowly unless there is a real significant need within a position in the team. So Matt Targett, Dan Burn, Kieran Trippier, they were all introduced immediately because there was severe weaknesses in those areas in the team when they came. Bruno wasn't, because at the time we had Shelvey, Willock, and Joe Linton playing great in the midfield three. And I think it's fair to say Sven Botman wouldn't have come into the team as a starter yet if we hadn't had injuries in the defence as well. So I think there's a proven track record there. Wood will play. I think that's the right decision. I'm not a huge fan of him, but actually that's a bit harsh. He's just not the right player for us. He just doesn't fit the way that we want to play. And I think Alan made an important point that if we are going to play him, maybe we need to play in a slightly different way, mix it up a little bit. You don't have to change your entire philosophy, but play a bit more towards his strengths. You saw that in the week with a header from the set piece. Maybe try and get the wingers involved in throwing some more crosses into the box, something like that. The problem that I have with Wood is Howe wants to play a pressing game, and Wood it's just not a strong suit. He's got other things that he can do very well, but that's not one of them for me. So I think I think that's kind of the lay of the land on it. But it makes sense to start Wood. And yes, Isak in the long term isn't going to want to sit on the bench. Absolutely, of course not. But he's just come in, and he'll understand that.
Yeah, Alan, I think, Matthew Pender. Oh, sorry, carry on there.
I was just saying, I think the other thing, I know it's not kind of about keeping people happy, but I think you have to think, what message would it send to Wood if literally he was replaced in the starting lineup from the League Cup tie immediately? He has been the backup striker. Wilson is injured. And I do think, it would really knock him as a player. He'd be legitimately going, what's the point of me being here if you're literally going to pull me out? So
totally agree.
I do think it's the right decision to start with Wood. And the other thing is that we haven't had much of a bench to draw on, certainly in the last few years. And even in the last few games, you've looked at the bench and you've gone, crikey, we're still a bit thin beyond the first 11 in terms of quality. Yeah. But if we get to 70 minutes and we bring on Alexander Isak, suddenly, crikey, the bench has got an international striker of that caliber on. So for me, I agree with everyone. Start with Wood. Isak there if needed, if he gets his clearance.
The other thing I just wanted to quickly say, because it sort of ties in with what you were saying about Wood there, Alan, is for me, I think the only player in the Tranmere game to really make an impact, a significant impact, especially in the first half, outside of the first teamers, for me was Elliot Anderson. And I'd like to see him get rewarded by, actually coming on for at least 10, 15 minutes in this game. And I think it's about sort of how repaying his faith and showing him, I can see what you're doing, and I am going to reward that. So in a similar vein, I just think Elliot Anderson maybe deserves a bit of a run out.
You see, I thought he was very average. I don't know, really? And I'm a big fan of him. I just didn't see that much from him. I maybe thought, and we discussed it on the podcast on Tuesday about how he had done so well against or for Bristol Rovers last year in League Two. I didn't think he was bad. I just thought he didn't do maybe as much as I thought he would. But no, I don't necessarily disagree in the sense that he may factor. Thanks so much, by the way, that for all the comments. Thanks for that, guys. And we really appreciate it. We have loads of comments about Isak and Wooden. This is going to generate a lot of comments just generally across the fan base. People want to see their shiny new toys, and they want them now, and I don't want to wait. And Eddie was the same for Bruno. People were not calling for his head, by goodness, but they were calling for it again and again, and Eddie was kept right. Football Style says Isak will have to start because Wood is not the right guy against Wolves, so no chance. So again, there's one side of the argument. And about Matthew Pender, Eddie will do what's right for the people or the team, and it'll be wrong to dismiss Wood. So pretty much saying what Alan has said there. Look at what he's done, the fact he is part of a squad, and Eddie is very much about that squad game and about those leaders in the dressing room, and it would shatter confidence. Then Crabsy Malone comes out with a big old curveball, and there's a chance we don't start Wood or Isaac. So I don't know who you would start. Maybe you would start Elliot Anderson and prove me wrong when he scores a hat-trick. By the way, I don't think he's bad. I just thought he had an okay game. Didn't think it was amazing.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. I can understand
that. Just in case I get chased out of town for it. So, Max, we'll come back to you a little bit. And my next question is about ASM, who had, well, I think a lot of people have said his best game for Newcastle, or at least one of them, against Man City. There's that brilliant picture of Pep Guardiola, hands on his face, on his knees almost, as Maxi is running at the fence once again. And that he is just unplayable. And a lot of the, new NUFC media and podcasts, and I think it was a True Faith podcast, actually, a State of Play, recently, they were talking about how City gave him so much space, and teams don't really do that. We're very used now to seeing him with 5 or 6 players around him, and that's why it was so effective. And so what I want your opinion on is, I'm assuming you'll think he'll start, and if so, do you think he can replicate that form and that performance on Sunday?
No, it will be hard because, as you say, City is very different to many teams in the Premier League, especially Wolves, who play on the very strong defensive side. So for him to get those like 1v1s like he did against Walker or Rodri or Stones, it's not going to happen, I think, this game. So he needs to figure out. But as you also said, when he in these games, he also draws maybe 3 other players on him, which will opens up space for other players to run into, like Joe Linton or Willock. So it's just about finding the right balance in these kind of games, because there's almost these games you really need him the most. Against City and Liverpool, yes, we need his creativity, we need his pace, the ability to beat the man. But we only play those guys 4 times a year, perhaps sometimes more. But these other teams within the Premier League who play more defensive, who knows he's our best player and maybe focus really much on him. Like we put 3 players or 2 players on him all the time when he gets the ball. These are the games where you need to show, I can do it in these games as well. I can find a pass, I can open up space, I can do the final ball, maybe even score a goal. And we can be, because against Brighton, he was invisible almost for the whole game. He had like a 5-minute spell of brilliance, as he always does in any game, but we need more from him in these type of games when maybe, as I think it will be quite a tight game, good defensive side, both of us, maybe both very good on the transition. So this is the types of games we really need to see him on his A game.
Max, I'm assuming you'll know this. Just I'm more thinking for Sweden here than I am for Real Sociedad, because I don't expect you to have watched all their games. Has Isak ever played in not just like a number 9? I know he's our number 14, but not number 9 role. Has he ever played maybe a front 3 for Sweden? Is that something that's ever happened? I'm just thinking, is there an argument that potentially both Wood and Isak get on the pitch at the same time on Sunday?
Well, it seems like Eddie Howe, when he's talking about it, has seemed to open for him to play on the wings, but he's never played there for us in the national team. because we play in a very strict 4-4-2. We have been for a long while. We just now started to change it to a 4-3-3, like we played Newcastle. So, and in all those games, he played up top with so 2-man striker partnership, and for Sociedad he was a lone striker. So I had never seen him play on the wings. I don't think he did that on loan at Willem II in Holland or in AEK when he played, just came through. So it would be interesting to see how they had planned for him, if he's going to play on the right, and if Wilson come back, he plays up top and Isak on the right. But mostly he plays as a number 14, number 9, and he's really good at it. So
that would be very exciting. Mark, Wolves tend to play 3-5-2, and certainly played that in their last Premier League game against Tottenham. And it was definitely, from what I watched a bit of, I didn't watch all of it, admittedly, but from what I've read and heard, it was an improved performance, if not the result maybe they wanted. Obviously, they're playing sort of wing backs style, the wingers moving up and down, not similar, I suppose, to how we might have played in the past or could line up ourselves. With them playing 3 at the back and no traditional full backs, do you think that'll help ASM and potentially Simon Almiron or our wingers? Do you think it'll alter how Eddie plays in any way?
Possibly. I would say it depends on how disciplined their midfield is going to be, because obviously when you play those wing backs, and presumably one at least at any given time is going to be bombing forward and leaving space in behind, you have to be very sort of disciplined about making sure your midfielder moves out there and covers that space. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, Neves probably isn't the kind of player that's going to do that. Moutinho might do a bit of it, and I don't know an awful lot about the new signing Nunez, so we'll have to see. But I think a lot depends on that. I wouldn't rule them out playing a four at the back, though, because I don't know if they played the first 2 Premier League games that way, but they definitely set up that way pretty much all of pre-season. And Bruno Lage made this whole big point about wanting. Yeah, Bruno Lage made this whole big point about wanting to move to 4 at the back. And part of the reason for selling Connor Cody was we're moving to a 4 at the back. He basically can't play in that system. So I wouldn't rule it out. It could be that they moved to a 3 at the back against Tottenham just because either it didn't work in the first 2 games and they just wanted to revert to type and sort of shore everything up, or it could be we're playing one of the top sides who want to have a bit more insurance policy back there. Mm-hmm. Or he might continue doing that. Or who knows, maybe we're seen as a top side now and you play 3 at the back against us. Well,
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. And that's something that will transition, and Max already made the point earlier about the fact that, SM needs that consistency, so do we. And then lots of people made that. If we, our Man City, the great point we had against City, the great point, maybe not great performance against Brighton is almost wasted if we go and put a subpar performance in and don't get a result as well against a side like Wolves, which in the past would have been pushing for top 10, but now, as you've said, I think, Mark, they just aren't doing it this year. You're quite right, by the way, I've just checked. 4 at the back in the previous 2 games, so they obviously have changed, but that might mean, as you say, they changed to a 3 at the back, which would be interesting. We'll come then to our predictions, and sort of what I want to know is what you think will happen in the game. I don't mean play by play, just generally. Do you think we'll dominate the ball? Do you think they'll dominate it? Who'll have more of the play? And what you think the scoreline will be? And Alan, I'll come to you first. So, what do you think is going to happen on Sunday?
I think there's been a long time since I said this about a Newcastle side, but I think we're exceptional defensively with our first choice, defense in. So I don't think Wolves will score. I think it then comes down to, as we've just talked about, does the team that turned up at Brighton turn up, or does the team that turned up at Man City when we played Man City? So I'm gonna, I think it'll be. I don't think they'll score, and I think if we win, it might be 1-0. It might be 2-0 if we really turn up, but I don't think it's going to be. I don't expect a rout, but I don't think Wolves will score. That's mine.
Okay, Max, what about you?
Yeah, I agree mostly with Alan there. I would say probably a 1-0 win to either side, because we're both good defensively, both dangerous on the transition in the counter-attack, so it could be a bit end-to-end. But it's we always seem to draw against Wolves. It's like Brighton and Wolves, draw or lose. So hopefully we can change that. But I would say, to be positive, 1-0 win to Newcastle. Alexander Isak comes on in the 80th minute and scores a worldie.
does a Papi Cisse score in his debut?
Yeah, exactly.
Black Mamba agrees with both of you. He says 1-0 or 2-0 to us. If you have any other predictions in the comments, folks, get them in and we'll read them out. And Mark, what do you think, then?
I can't really add too much to what's been said. My guess was going to be 1-0 or 1-1. I'm gonna go with 1-0 because why the hell not? And I think it does depend a lot on what Alan said. Which team turns up? Is it going to be that marauding, pressing side that faced Man City, or is it going to be the team that really failed to stamp their authority properly on the game against Brighton? And I think that will probably settle it either way. Agree again with Alan. Our defense is top notch. I mean, it's really top quality. It's a top 6 defense, really, if you think about it. And Wolves have got a pretty good defense as well, rather. So I think it'll be a very tight game, unfortunately. I don't think it's going to be particularly entertaining, would be my prediction, because Wolves have a habit of making the game that way. They play a very sort of, I guess, oftentimes I watch their games as a neutral if I'm, just watching a Premier League game. And I just think it looks like a European tie. It looks like a Europa League game or something every time they play it. I don't like that brand of football at all. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be the most entertaining game. But as long as we come out of it with 3 points, there'll be no complaints from me. And if it ends up going the way that Max has predicted, I'll be especially happy if Isak can bag a winner coming off the bench. That'd be amazing.
Fingers crossed. And Crabsy Malone says exactly that as well. 1-0 or 2-0. Hopefully Isak can score as well. Yeah, I agree with all you three, gentlemen, and all the comments as well. I think we'll win. Last home game, last season we won. We were more of a work in progress than we are now. Agree with Alan completely. We are very sound defensively. We also have a top 3 goalkeeper. He is top 3. He is. There's no reason he couldn't be playing for a team like that. And the way Liverpool are playing at the moment, he definitely could be up there. So he's a fantastic goalkeeper and has done everything we've asked of him so far. So I see no reason why we can't keep a clean sheet and we'll press them. I think we'll thump them. I think it'll be 3-0. And bear in mind, that sounds a bit outlandish. I said we'd beat City, and at half time, I was sitting pretty, and I think I said 2-1, and everyone else had called like tentative draws or possibly a loss. So I'm very positive, but I think it's because we're a really good team, and I think we as fans have to try and get over that, the sort of negativity. And not that you're all being very realistic. I'm not. I'm being a bit of a dreamer, but I do think we can win, and I think we can beat them quite handily. They can be a very savvy operators at times, but I think with their midfield is a bit older, and I think if you have a very dynamic midfield like Joelinton and Bruno and possibly Willock or Longstaff, I think we really can go at them. Take our chances, we can win 3-0. It might be something similar more to what you gentlemen are saying, either a very close 1-0, maybe even a draw. Folks, thank you very much for all your
Before we
discussions.
Go off,
sorry, Max, go ahead.
I just want to add something because I don't think I did my feelings justice in the start.
No, far away.
When we signed Isak, because I've been following the club for just 6 years now, and I started supporting them 2016 when they won against Tottenham. That was the day I was turned to Newcastle. That was the day I got stolen. So this time last year, when we had that other guy as a manager and the owner, my feelings were zero. I had no passion, no heart towards this club. I think we all were the same. It was pretty much rock bottom. So to sit here today to see one of my countrymen sign for our club for a record fee, it's really hard for me to comprehend, because just seeing him at St. James's Park with the Newcastle top on and his name on the back it gives me goosebumps, to be honest. And the only thing I can compare to for maybe your guys to understand is when Shearer signed for Newcastle back in '96. I think this feelings for me is quite similar to maybe what those guys had then, or you guys. It's just unbelievable, and I'm so happy, because going from that bad place with rock bottom to now where I'm so ecstatic. I just want to see the next game, and it's so amazing to see.
Here. Well said, Max. And I couldn't agree anymore. It's as I said earlier, it's a lifetime ago. It's a different club. It's almost a different fan base now. It's just phenomenal. And I, for one, think it's great. Folks, thank you so much for your comments and for all the people watching along. Gentlemen, thank you so much for the discussion. It was brilliant. I'm really looking forward to Sunday. And I will catch up with you and catch up all you listeners next week. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks.